The air was crisp as Daniel pulled into the driveway of his lakeside cabin, the sun reflecting off the water like glass. He had cut his business trip short by 2 days, eager to return to peace and quiet. But as he unlocked the front gate, something felt wrong. The cabin porch lights were on, his garden chairs had been rearranged, and a bold for sale sign leaned against his mailbox. His heart pounded. Nobody had permission to sell his property. The cabin wasn't just wood and stone. It was his late father's legacy, a place filled with memories of fishing trips, family laughter, and evenings by the fire. Every corner carried history, every creak in the floor carried meaning. That's when he noticed her, Karen, the HOA president, standing near the mailbox with a phone in hand, lips pressed tight in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Before Daniel could even ask what was happening, she dialed 911. "Yes," she said loudly, glaring at him. "There's a suspicious man trespassing on this property." Daniel froze, his grip tightening on his keys. Suspicious man? This was his land, his home. Neighbors peeked out their windows, whispering. Karen's eyes glistened with a dangerous confidence. She had a plan, and Daniel had just walked right into it. The sirens arrived faster than Daniel expected. Within minutes, 2 officers stood on his porch, questioning him as Karen folded her arms, feigning innocence. "I don't know who he is," she said sweetly. "But this cabin belongs to the HOA now. We've already listed it for sale." Daniel's jaw clenched. He pulled out his driver's license, cabin deed, and tax receipts, all proof of ownership. The officers exchanged wary looks. Karen's story was crumbling, but she didn't flinch. "Those papers don't mean anything," she snapped. "Our bylaws give us control over abandoned properties. He left for weeks. We assumed he was gone." Abandoned? Daniel had been gone for less than 7 days. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was theft in disguise, wrapped in HOA authority. The officers, cautious but professional, stepped aside once his documents checked out. Karen's confidence wavered, but only for a moment. "You'll regret coming back early," she whispered, low enough for only him to hear. Daniel stood tall, his heart racing. She had overplayed her hand, and now he had the truth. This wasn't about a cabin. It was about power, greed, and control. And Karen had just made the biggest mistake of her reign. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The sound of waves brushing against the shore usually calmed him, but now they only mirrored his restless thoughts. Why would Karen claim ownership of his cabin? How long had this been going on? He needed answers. Early the next morning, he visited the county clerk's office. Flipping through property records, his eyes widened. Karen had filed paperwork claiming the HOA had temporary stewardship over his cabin while he was absent. She had even signed his name in one section. Sloppy, but enough to raise alarms. His hands shook as he copied the documents. Fraud. Plain and simple. But he knew exposing her wouldn't be enough. Karen thrived on intimidation, and if he didn't handle this carefully, she'd twist the story back against him. Back at the cabin, Daniel set up cameras, saved copies of everything, and began reaching out to neighbors quietly. To his surprise, many of them sighed in relief when he brought it up. Karen had pulled similar stunts before, overcharging fines, locking people out of amenities, even threatening foreclosure over late payments. His cabin wasn't her first target. Now, the whispers of doubt were becoming louder. For the first time, Karen wasn't untouchable. Days later, Daniel noticed unusual activity on his porch. Flyers appeared, advertising an exclusive lakefront cabin for sale. Contact HOA office for details. Curious, he searched online. His stomach dropped. There it was, his cabin, listed on multiple real estate sites under Karen's name. The photos weren't just of the exterior. Someone had been inside, photographing his living room, bedroom, even the fishing poles hanging by the fireplace. His privacy had been violated, his home trespassed. Anger burned, but Daniel stayed calm. He reached out to one of the agents listed on the ad, posing as a potential buyer. Within minutes, the agent confirmed that Karen had assured them the HOA controlled the property. She even bragged it would sell within the week. Daniel recorded everything. Screenshots, call logs, even the agent's testimony. The case was building itself, piece by piece, like a puzzle exposing the truth. Karen thought she was invincible, but every lie was now evidence. Every action a step closer to her downfall. As the sun set that evening, Daniel stood on his porch, staring at the water. His father had always told him, "The lake reflects what's in your heart. Keep it clear, and the truth will shine through." Daniel whispered to the waves, "Dad, I'll protect this place. No one's stealing it." The next HOA meeting was packed. Karen sat at the front, polished and smiling, as if nothing had happened. But Daniel walked in with a folder under his arm and quiet determination in his eyes. Neighbors turned toward him, some whispering, some hopeful. When the floor opened for discussion, Daniel stood. "I have proof," he began, his voice steady, "that my cabin was listed for sale without my knowledge. By this HOA." Gasps filled the room. Karen's smile froze. One by one, he laid out the documents. Forged signatures, fraudulent filings, real estate ads with Karen's name, and video evidence of her posting flyers. Murmurs spread like wildfire. For years, homeowners had endured Karen's control in silence. But now the cracks were visible. Karen tried to interrupt, her voice shrill. "He's lying. He abandoned the property." But Daniel cut her off, holding up a recording of her whisper. "You'll regret coming back early." The room went silent. For the first time, Karen looked small, cornered. The neighbors weren't afraid anymore. They were angry, united, and ready for change. Within weeks, investigations began. The county clerk confirmed the forged paperwork. Real estate agents provided written statements. And neighbors who once stayed quiet came forward with their own stories. Unauthorized fines, threats, harassment. Karen's empire crumbled. The HOA board voted her out, removing her as president. Lawsuits followed, and Karen faced heavy penalties for fraud and misconduct. Her once feared name became a cautionary tale whispered with disdain. Meanwhile, Daniel's cabin stood untouched, safe once again. He repaired the locks, repainted the porch, and hung a new sign at the gate. Family property since 1968. It was a reminder that some legacies couldn't be erased by greed. Neighbors began visiting more often, bringing food, sharing laughter, and thanking him for standing up. What started as one man's fight had become a community's awakening. And in the stillness of the lake, Daniel finally felt peace return. Months later, as winter snow dusted the lakeside, Daniel sat on the porch with a steaming mug of coffee. Duke the family dog lay at his feet, while the lake shimmered under the pale sun. The cabin felt alive again, warm, safe, untouchable. Children played by the water's edge, their laughter echoing through the air. Neighbors waved as they passed, no longer divided by fear. The HOA was now transparent, run by honest hands. And Karen? She had vanished from the neighborhood, her name remembered only as a warning. Daniel leaned back, eyes closing as the wind rustled through the pines. He thought of his father again, of the promise he had made, to protect the legacy, the land, and the memories tied to this place. He smiled. He had kept that promise. The cabin wasn't just standing. It was thriving, filled with life and laughter once more. And Daniel knew one thing for certain. No one could ever steal what was built on love, truth, and resilience.